Check it out. Here's our water test kit. So these two, one of them I tested from the reverse osmosis system, which I put a UV clarifier light on. And then this one I just took raw right from the, right directly from the well, basically. I mean, right at the fire hose connection that I put in. And so I'm not touching this water when I'm doing this. But basically, these two are for bacteria tests, and they're going to be on ice in this cooler. And these two are the more extensive, complete analysis, like all the heavy metals and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. Let me get this out of here. Alright, so obviously this isn't rocket science. I'm just really getting some water spraying through to make sure everything is rinsed out, just to get a more accurate result. And then I could wear gloves. The gloves I have are actually nitrile, but they're specifically non-sterile. So what I'm just doing is I'm making sure that I don't contact any of the surfaces. Of course, that cap's pretty tight. I need two hands. 1 second. So, shoot, you can see my shadow of what I'm doing. And not really. Just getting the bottle uncapped, and I'm just being really sure to not actually touch anywhere where the cap is. I'm not even gonna set the cap down. So I could do this from a faucet, but if I do it from a faucet, that's testing everything inside the water main all the way to that faucet, and I'm really just trying to test the well right now. So a little tough to do this with two hands. You can see what I'm going to do, so let me set this down for a second. Alright, I'm just going to be patient, let it fill like this. Probably going to get a little heavy, so set it down. So let me check back in with you a minute. It is a pain with the phone all the time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, fold to the correct line, put it on the ice. I'm going to bring it straight to this microbiologist, and he's going to do the sample test on the two bacterias immediately. And then this has to actually get sent out to a different place. Going to have to get overnighted again on ice to them, and they'll do the whole analysis of the metals and stuff. It's a little bit expensive. It's about $200 for the bacteria inspection. It's about $600 for the metal inspection. And so it's a little pricey, I think. That's all I'm doing. So this one, I didn't completely understand why, but it has acid in it already, like a certain amount of acid. So it's just the test kit. I didn't have to add anything. I just took the sealed cap off, and I'm just letting it fill to the mark he told me, which is here. And so whatever that's going to be. Alright, samples taken in the bag. Dropping them to the tester. Alright, check it out. Here's my downloaded results, my lab analysis. So you can see of everything on here, one thing pops out. It's that red present right there. So that's total coliform, which means this well has bacteria. And it tells you the amount. And you know, we talked a bit, and he said that's pretty typical. So what I did was I took, I looked it up. I don't remember the amount, but it was pretty easy to look up. A lot of the government agencies, like water departments, would tell you what percentage. But I did use chlorine. Actually, I used literally bleach, and I put that in the well, and then I ran all the faucets until I could smell the chlorine coming out. And I did a chlorine test with the pool strip and tested chlorine. Then we had filled up some water that we were going to need, drinking water, before we did all that. And then waited 24 hours, and then I just ran all the faucets until the chlorine was gone. I verified the chlorine was gone. So we ran chlorine through the system, and then in the drinking water specific areas, I will show you, I put a UV light. So that's, it's kind of a bummer there's any bacteria at all, but it's pretty common, and it was a fairly easy fix. And it wasn't E. coli, so that's good. And then as we go a little bit later, and so the upper one here is the regular well water, and the lower one is the reverse osmosis water. So even still, we were basically none, even without the UV light. So once it goes through the reverse osmosis, it's perfect. But simply because we knew there is some bacteria in the water, we went ahead and did the UV light, which I'll show you. And then this is the one that took much longer to get in. Was the one that went through the lab. So they tested the heavy metal and problematic metals, I guess, cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, nickel, and zinc. And there was basically no detection on anything except that chromium, and that number was very low. He said that's kind of insignificant, and I guess a lot of the wells in California have that particular one, chromium, and then there's like a couple of numbers after it. So he said that's very very low. So the good news is there's essentially no heavy metals, and there is bacteria that's pretty easily treated. So we won't be drinking water like right out of the faucets. I do. I still have 6 months of drinking that, and I've never had gotten sick or had a problem. But I'm gonna really say we're not going to be using straight from the tap regularly. We'll use it for whatever we need it for, showers and everything. It's a lot better than the chlorinated water. We can tell already with skin. So let me show you the filter I put in. Alright, so I didn't even clean it up. I'm just going to show you exactly as is. So these are the multiple stages of the reverse osmosis, which I would really recommend for anybody. We've had this back when we were still on the city water. We've had this since we moved here. I think I put this in like the first month we were here, just because it provides excellent tasting drinking water. So this is the Aquasana. I don't remember the exact name, but it's got all the stages, and then it goes through that thing, which is a remineralizer. But what I've done is I've pulled right off of the cold water line, right there where that angle stop is, that shiny thing, right? I've got a little adapter, and I've got that going into this big silver thing. And so the water that comes off of the cold goes into this silver thing, which is the UV light. And then it goes two directions. It goes into this instant hot water InSinkErator with its own filter, and then it also goes over here to these. So both these two faucets on the side right here, this is the drinking water, and that basically, it takes a long time to make that water or to clean it up. So all that water ends up going in here. Basically it leaves here, goes to the remineralizer, comes in, and it gets stored in this tank. So that tank is like a pressure tank that stores, I don't remember, 2.5 gallons or something. So it's always ready to go right there. And then where it splits off into this instant hot, this gives us instant hot water. You'll notice now that I turn that on, you can see that that light's glowing. So that UV light has this little sensor. Anytime water flows, it turns the UV light on, and it leaves it on for a little extra long. And then once the timer's up, it'll turn it back off. So that light, that's a black light, only comes on when there's water flow. So basically, this is raw, straight well water. The hoses outside are straight well water. The bathrooms and everything are straight well water. But this is reverse osmosis, and this is UV treated, and they're both UV treated. So, it's not really it wasn't a hard fix. I would consider it a pretty easy fix. We could also do very easily a whole house UV filter, which is probably going to be the fix for most people. But here's the thing. Our house on behind me has two water mains, so I'd have to put two in this house and one in that house. We'd end up in it for like three systems, and you know, they're $2,500 to $5,000 a piece. So you're looking at a minimum $7,500 in material alone, to probably more like 15 grand in material, and then labor. So it just there's to me it's not really necessary to treat all the water coming in, especially because I was drinking this water for months before the test, and I drink it if I'm outside, like if I'm way, far away and there's a hose there, I'm drinking right from the hose. I haven't had any problems, gotten sick or anything. At least I know there's no heavy metals that's going to cause like a long-term chronic issue that I wouldn't detect. But, if the bacteria was a problem, I'd imagine I'd be, you know, equivalent of food poisoning pretty quick the same day, and I've had no problem. So I from what the microbiologist explained, bacterias can look very similar. So some problem bacterias look a lot like kind of normal bacteria, and they classify them all more as like coliform. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the bacteria that we have in this well or in this aquifer is harmless, but you're gonna want to have your own test done and make your own, you know, draw your own conclusions based on the info. But at least you can get it tested and you can know exactly what you got. And I also learned that the water that they sell you from the like bottled water companies, a lot of those have pretty high levels of bacteria and other things, but they're within the EPA guidelines, so they're allowed to sell it. And so you're probably drinking bacteria right now. I'm sorry to tell you. So, hope that helps. I did actually have a test done on the tap water. The tap water had no bacteria at all, but it had chlorine. So that's kind of like the tap water. In a way, you're safer drinking the tap water because there's gonna be no bacteria, but then you're drinking chlorine. If you don't want to drink chlorine, you're drinking the bottled water, and the only way you're going to get no bacteria is if it's going through the reverse osmosis, which some are. But he didn't really want to name names because he does tests for a lot of them. So, probably conflict of interests to start releasing their info. Very good. Hope this helps.